the kind of guy who's going to fit and should fit in the San Diego lineup late 26 or 27, which is a crazy projection for a guy who will play this entire season as an 18-year-old.
Hey, the San Diego Padres love to swing trades, but they also find some high ceiling prospects. Leo De Vries is next in line. Let's talk about him. That's right. It's your Baseball America Prospect Profile. Scott Braun with JJ Cooper and Geoff Pontes. JJ, is this superstar potential for the Padres? I know it's going to take a little time. He's young, but what are we seeing?
The way I would describe how the Padres approach the international market, this fits with AJ Preller. If you wanted to use a poker analogy, they're going all in, and they're not spreading their risk. They're not diversifying into a well-rounded portfolio. They're not saying we're going to put some money on this pitcher and this shortstop and this catcher. What the Padres like to do is identify someone that they see as a star, and they like to make that star kind of the center point of their international class. They did it with Ethan Salas, and here they've done it with Leo De Vries. And by the way, once they do, they then want to send that guy on a rocket ship through the minors. We saw that last year 2 years ago with Salas, and last year again. We saw that with Leo De Vries, who, while most of his contemporaries were trying to get out of the Dominican Summer League, De Vries was in full season ball, and not surprisingly, considering how much the Padres are impressed with him and how the reason that they were willing to send him to the California League, he really more than held his own. He kind of took a little bit of time to kind of get comfortable there, and then was one of the better players in the league. This is a player whose approach to the game, his physicality, it all seems more advanced than you look at him and you say, wait, this is a teenager. This is a guy who is still probably 7, 8, 9, 10 years away from his prime. You see a lot of things already with when I've seen him play in person. You would not, if you were asking who's the youngest player on this field, and he always is the youngest player on any field he plays on, you wouldn't pick him out that way because he carries himself. He looks like a guy who has some savvy, who has some experience, and he has a lot of tools to go with that, Geoff.
Yeah, I think 100%. And, you brought up a good point there. Was a little bit of a slow starter this year. Really started to get going in July. And then, over the last few months of his season, really showed something. Hit 284, 407, 589 over his final 35 games. Season ended with an injury in mid-August. He was shut down for a little bit and then sort of returned, I think maybe at the end of the first week of AFL. Prior to that, his first 40 games, and as we said, he was playing at a full season level as, a 17-year-old, hit 196, 319, 310. But once it sort of clicked in July where he actually had 8 homers in that month, he really took off. And I think if he had maybe had, another 3 weeks at the tail end of that in August and beginning of September, as the season fully ended, we might have seen those numbers climb even a little bit more. Super twitchy. I don't know if he stays at shortstop long-term, but kind of a compact build, really good bat speed, switch hitter, strong already, but there's room to potentially add more power. Not a double plus runner or something like that, but is probably going to be above average to at least average at peak with some power, with the hit tool, and is a matchup issue when you have a switch hitter with all the tools and can do all the things that De Vries can do. So really, really exciting player. And I think, when we're talking about the players that came from that 24 international class, we're going to look back and sort of compare De Vries and then Jesus Mate, who's going to make his stateside debut this year. Just kind of shows you, how much further along De Vries is than a lot of these guys that sign internationally and typically spend a year in the Dominican Summer League, or at the very least end up in the complex league domestically. He skipped both of those and went right to full season ball. So it kind of makes sense why he might have struggled over those first couple of months as he settled in.
The thing that jumps out to me, just to talk about how young he is, he'll be 18 for the entirety of the 2025 minor league season. He'll turn 19 in the MLB postseason. He will not turn 20 until after his 2026 season is basically fully in the bag, unless he's playing in the postseason with the big league Padres. So you're talking about a guy who is a year, 2, 3, 4 years younger than the guys he's playing with. He may go back to the Cal League to start the season just to let it warm up a little bit in the Midwest League, but he's going to likely spend the majority of his season, or at least the start of of his season, the majority of the season in the Midwest League in High A as the youngest player in that league. It wouldn't be crazy to think that he might reach Double A by the end of the year. Like, this is the kind of timetables that you just don't see normally. Now, the Padres are more aggressive than pretty much anyone else with players like this. But when you throw in the fact, Geoff mentioned, he's a switch hitter. Often switch hitters take a little bit longer because you got two swings to work on. Not a problem with De Vries so far. And to me, like, you just put it all together and you say, I don't know if it's going to be for the Padres or, again, the Padres are aggressive in every way. If they can make a move and they need to make a move, he also could be a top trade chip. But he is the kind of guy, they love their shortstops. He's the kind of guy who's going to fit and should fit in the San Diego lineup late 26 or 27, which again is a crazy projection for a guy who will play this entire season as an 18-year-old.
Yeah, and I think one of the most impressive things too is you start to look at some of the underlying power numbers, a 102.1 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velocity. That's on par with, older domestic prospects with more experience that we rank very highly. It's actually the exact number that Walker Jenkins has for 90th percentile. He's a few years younger than Jenkins. But on top of that, being a switch hitter with a little bit of power, he consistently puts the ball in the air. He had a 60% fly ball plus line drive rate this year, nearly a 40% air pull. So he consistently gets the ball in the air, knows how to hit the ball in the air to his pull side. And that's split, between both sides of the plate. So there aren't a lot of switch hitters that can do that. There's not a lot of young players that already sort of have, pretty clean backspin and barrel control and accuracy at that age. And I think that the skills, which were already sort of average-ish for the level at least, when you put all that together, this is somebody that as he starts to catch up to the age plus level stuff could really take a humongous jump, whether it's this year or next year. And we really see him take off in terms of like a slash line, production standpoint.
And I just want to kind of confirm this from both of you. The Padres do love to wheel and deal. AJ Preller is, I would say, top 3 in terms of front office leaders that make trades. He would do this if he got the call, right? De Vries? Putting the phone down. I mean, is that the one? No, you think De Vries even would be in play?
I don't think AJ hangs up the phone on anyone. Like, this is a guy who traded James Wood away, who was a little further away, but he traded James Wood. This is a guy who traded Mackenzie Gore. This is a guy who traded for Juan Soto. I would say that he is not going to make a move. It would have to be something massive, but it's the Padres. Like, again, I don't think that there's anyone ever that he hasn't at least will entertain, like, and take the call.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have to be an absolutely elite young major league player for him to consider moving an asset like this. The Padres, as JJ said, they do trade good prospects. They're probably one of the organizations that's the least scared of sort of that coming back to bite them, but I don't think this would ever happen. But like, we're talking like Gunnar Henderson or Corbin Carroll or, Paul Skeens. Like, if it was a player like that was available maybe a year from now, Livy wants to move to San Diego. That's probably the situation where I think De Vries would become available. But I just think there's very few players they would probably make De Vries available for. He probably wouldn't hang up the phone because he would try to negotiate down to, another prospect in the system.
Actually, you know what? If the Padres have a great first half, but they really are starter short, a phone call to, Seattle, let's say they're having a bad start to the year. And they've got a young pitcher. The Padres want a controllable young pitcher. It's not going to cost a lot. That's where you can wheel and deal a little bit. Okay. So hold on. We're picking it back. Did you hang up? You're still here? Okay. Never mind. That was Scott Braun. That wasn't me. I would never do that. Anyway, if you like this, we go over every single top prospect per organization. If you haven't seen your team yet that you're looking for, it will be out soon. Otherwise, scroll back to see others. And remember, Baseball America can be subscribed to. Go get yourself a subscription at baseballamerica.com.